शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Let us pray together. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou abidest in all, thou art all, thou assumest all forms, thou art the origin and goal of all, thou art the self of all, thou art existence, knowledge and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful, may the wicked become gentle, may all creatures think of mutual welfare, may their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. Hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So we will have an opening song, a beautiful poem by Swami Vivekananda to a friend, rendered to music by Joe Dwyer. Yes, Peter, please.
Friend, let me speak my heart to thee. One truth I have found supreme, this dreadful world is tossed with waves. Only one boat bears across. Love, love, that is the only jewel. Friend, let me speak my heart to thee. One truth I have found supreme, glaring vision, heaven and hell. Where can the slave find escape? Love, love, that is the only jewel. Friend, I have found this truth supreme. One lesson I've learned in life, devotion and worship, yoga and vows. I've seen through them all, what have I known? Love, love, that is the only jewel. Friend, I have found this truth supreme. One lesson I've learned in life, science, philosophy, systems vary. These are all but illusions of mine. Love, love, that is the only jewel. Friend, I have found this truth supreme. One lesson I've learned in life, the insects teach, embracing the flame, casting the fire, the dross of self. Love, love, that is the only jewel. Heir to the infinite thou art. Thy heart is the sea of love, the clear heart, more than this that you must share, that you must know. Love, love, that is the only you. Heir to the infinite thou art. Thy heart is the sea of love. There is a treasure deep in your heart. Give it away, don't ask in return. Love, love, that is the only you. Heir to the infinite thou art. Thy heart is the sea of love, highest from my newest friend. Everywhere the same God. Love, love, that is the only you. Heir to the infinite thou art. Thy heart is the sea of love, loves all beings without distinction. He in truth is worshiping God. Love, love, that is the only you. Love, love, that is the only you.
Charlie, that clicker. Thank you, thank you. So, dear friends, today we are taking up a very important topic on which many questions get asked in the practice of Vedanta. Some have this impression, somehow, I don't know where it came from, maybe by reading some little book here and there on Vedanta, that in Vedanta there is no worship. In Vedanta, there is no external worship of different gods, goddesses. And yet, we see the greatest Vedanta teachers have been doing it from the how many centuries past, how many thousands of years past, that they have been engaged in this worship without having any problem with the non-dual understanding. In fact, this is the way to realize the non-dual truth actually in one's life. This non-dual truth, as it has been enunciated in the great Mandukya Upanishad, that the ultimate reality that is non-dual, it is not which cognizes the internal, nor that which cognizes the external, not what cognizes both of them, not a mass of cognition, not cognitive, not non-cognitive. It is unseen, incapable of being spoken of, unnameable. These are all negatives. This is not, this is not, this is not. Then what it is, these sages are trying to tell now in positive way but it has to be taken in the light of all that has been told before, that it is the essence of the knowledge, the peaceful, the benign, the non-dual. He is the self. He is to be known. First it is told unknowable, but then it is told he is to be known. So we must understand the meaning of the word known here as experience. One must experience it as one's own self, where the distinction between the knower and the known disappears, and the pure experienced knowledge alone remains without the distinction of experiencer and experienced. So this is the truth, that it is our true self. It is told, he is the self, he is to be known. So this is the goal. In Chandogya Upanishad, it is told by the sage Aruni to Shvetaketu, that look, Shvetaketu, all that gets pervaded by that which is in everything and outside of everything, that is that which does not that is Atman. This is your Atman. You are that Atman which is all pervasive. That is our true nature. And this is to be realized. It is to be known in that sense. And Sri Ramakrishna used to repeat this very thing again and again, that this is the goal. God realization is the goal of human life. The goal. Don't think that there will be several different goals. I can choose from that. No, friends. There can be this only goal for human life. I have spoken about it many times, so I am not wasting your time on this. But think that, be sure, be determined that God realization is the only goal for a human being. And so we have to but reach it. As you begin, it is a winding, treacherous, long hike, fraught with many difficulties. When one reaches that goal, it is the path. Now that takes precedence. Once you are determined that you have to reach that goal, that is the most important thing in life. Now the question is, just let me go on the path. The path is shown by the teacher. The Guru, as it is said, shows the path. Go by that path and you will reach there. So this, as you see, this little child starts walking on this path long. But one has to do it. There is no alternative, no choice about it. You have to do it. Now the question is how to do it. That is called yoga. This procedure of connecting us to the goal, that is called yoga. As Swami Vivekananda mentions it in his very beautiful, very practical lecture given in Pasadena, California, that it is the means and the end have to be connected. The means and the end, they have to be connected. This lesson has to be learned, that once you determine the goal, now forget the goal and concentrate on the means. And hold on to the means. He says that the most important lesson that one has to learn is this. Now, strengthen the means, follow them assiduously, and then the goal has to come. So this is how this is called technically the yoga. Yoga does not limit itself to some physical postures. That is a very small aspect of this whole discipline of yoga. So, yoga, there is the yoga of knowledge, there is the yoga of devotion, there is the yoga of action or work, and then the yoga of the control of mind. This science of worship is an aspect of the yoga of devotion. It is the yoga of devotion, or it is also called yoga of love, where the faculty of love is used to direct our life towards the goal. We know how powerful the love is. If there is love, all the difficulties, we don't even think about them. Love will conquer all, we say, if there is really the love. It is, we heard this nice song of Swami Vivekananda, love, love, that's the only jewel. There is our heart is the sea of love, and that supreme truth we get by that. It is the non-dual truth that we get by practicing this path of love. And one important aspect of this is the science of worship. In all different religions, you see, to some extent, this science of worship has come up. But it is only the Hindus who have developed it meticulously in various different aspects of it, and given a thorough scientific treatment to this subject of worship. It is how should one worship, why should one worship? All these questions are very beautifully dealt with also the practical insights. This is now a science, but it is to be learned not only in the class, means like listening to lectures, but it is something that comes hands-on. To give you my example, I did not really like personally all this worship and other things. In fact, I used to make fun of those who used to, our Swamis and other people who used to be engaged in this worship. But the transformation came when I myself had been told to do the worship. Now, as you do it, you start feeling the benefit of it. The efficacy of doing worship starts manifesting in you gradually. And then I felt it. It's like that, you may have the resistance to take some medical treatment. I don't like it. But if you do it, if you start taking it, then if it is the proper treatment, then you will start feeling the beneficial effects, and then you will take it. They tell about a certain, this stomach disease like jaundice, where the taste of your all goes away. You cannot properly taste things. It all tastes like ash. So even sugar tastes bad. Normally one would like to eat sugary things, sweet things, but because of that disease, the sugar tastes terrible. And the treatment for that disease in Ayurveda is sugar. Eat sugar. So initially what happens, the patient refuses to eat sugar. It doesn't taste good. I don't want to eat sugar. But then it has to be forced. Oh, eat, it is medicine. You have to take it. And so, by various ways, one has to push some sugar. One has to make that fellow take some sugar. Now what happens? He is not liking sugar, but it goes in. And then what happens? The disease is gradually cured because it is medicine. And then the taste comes back. Now, that person doesn't need to be pressurized to eat sugar because now it tastes wonderful. So, in fact, you will have to tell him, eat it in limitation, don't eat too much. So, it is like that with worship. You start doing it, you start feeling the beneficial impact of that in your life. And thus, you know that it is great, it works, it is important. So we shall see the various ways of worship. One important idea is that the worship, as told in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that you see so many deities in a Hindu temple which get worshipped. You have a deity to be worshipped, and you see that as that deity is worshipped. No, friends, it is that deity is your form. It is to be worshipped as you. It is said that it is Atma iti eva upasita. That is the great statement in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that worship it as your true self. And then never forget this idea that it is your true self manifested for the sake of worship in this form. So, we shall see there are different 4 levels of worship are described. The highest level of worship, where you see, experience the all-pervading oneness. Everywhere you feel the presence of Brahman, that one divine entity. And then you don't need other forms, you already are there. So, that is the highest form of worship. You know, the readers of the life of Sri Ramakrishna know that he was unable to do the external worship once he realized that divine presence everywhere. So, external worship became impossible for him, although it was his job. But then he could not do it because just sit for the worship and the mind would go, merge into the absolute one without second reality. So therefore, if somebody's awareness reaches that level, then that person does not need to perform worship. Once you get to the destination, then you don't have to travel. You just come out of the car as your GPS announces, when you have put the GPS and are driving. And then when you reach the destination, the GPS says you have arrived. So now just park the car, get out of it. So it is at that point you don't need to actually do any external worship. This is the highest form of worship. In Sanskrit it is said, Uttamastu Brahma Sadbhavo. And then, well, I am not able to, I understand it, but I am not able to feel that. That is not my experience. Okay, then the next best. Like you have, different plans. You have a project to be done, then plan A. If it works, great. If it doesn't, plan B. If that fails, then plan C. And so there are various levels at which you can start. So it is, the next one is meditation. Meditate on that. Meditation means what? Trying to hold that awareness. Hold on to that awareness by the force of mind, the concentration. Concentrate on that. So that is, gradually you will be able to start experiencing it by meditating on it. That is the next best. Well, we know to meditate becomes so difficult. The mind keeps on running in all directions. Difficult to meditate. Then what to do? Don't worry. There is another way also, another level at which you can begin. Another level is keep on chanting the hymns or keep on doing the mantra repetition. Keep on repeating the mantra all the time and chant the hymns to that God. That is the next best. And then that also may not be very easy as one thinks, So it is because you start repeating the mantra, forget about it in 2 minutes. You do, that is also, it happens. It's so simple really. Keep on repeating the mantra. But that also, for some time you repeat, and then you even do not know when it slipped off your consciousness. So even that is not easy for all. Then what? The lowest form that everybody can do, and that is the external worship. It is because man's mind, a human mind, gets concentrated by work. When you are given some work, then you learn to concentrate. Like Charlie's mind may go here and there and all that. But very brilliant man. So do the accounts. Then you require concentration. Then if you put this figure instead of that figure, it doesn't match. It doesn't. So you have to perforce learn to concentrate. So the work makes us learn concentration. So you take up this external worship. That is the purpose for it. External worship. So that Sanskrit verse says, Uttamastu Brahma Sadbhavo Dhyana Bhavastu Madhyamaha. Then Stutir Japo Adhamo Bhavo Bahya Puja Dhama Dhama. Bahya Puja is the lowest. But we should take up the means that we can handle and gradually climb up the ladder. It is, yes, like you can begin, I was experimenting with weights on my ankles long back. And then I started with 2 pounds on each ankle. That also I was finding a bit difficult. But after a few days, I got comfortable with it. Then I increased it to 5 pounds. Yeah. Then I increased it to 7 pounds. Then I increased it to 10 pounds. So what happens is that you have to, begin at where you are and then keep on climbing to the next step of the ladder. So it works. By practice you gain strength. It is. And thus you see you will be able to do that. One has to have. It is that love is the real force. in all this. You have to develop that love for God. That love takes to wings, as it were, and then your that with that you develop so many wonderful ideas. The mind goes to higher and higher realms by this force of imagination filled with love. This love gets pushed through this imagination. So that is the main thing in worship. One has to have the love for the ideal. That yes, I want to realize the truth. That is the goal of my life. One must have this awareness. So now we shall come to now how to do this worship. Before that, let us see that we actually form connections in our family, society, and all that through actions. So now we have to use those very things to form connection with what? God. Thank you. We have to use, the method remains the same, but you have to now form that connection with the divine, with God, through these methods. Now you see, how do we form these connections in, say, our family life, within the community. We understand each other, understand the needs of each other, try to fulfill those needs, like the husband and wife, they try to feel each other's needs and then try to serve that. And thus what happens? The love develops, the bond develops. Initially, it is when somebody, say, met another person, say a boy met a girl like that, and then it was all not very strong connection as such, but just met, the liking was there, and then you just worked on that. You feel the ground and move forward and so forth, it then gradually develops into a very strong bond. So also with others, with children, that okay, my child wants to do this. And then you look at it, whether it is hurtful for the child. After all, it is a child. Now your loving bond develops by taking care of the child. So also, all these things, what happens there? You feel the reality of that relationship and that connection. And now look into the deep meaning of the connection. Like you see, this is connected to this wire, that is connected to that amplifier, that is also therefore through that is connected to the speakers, and thus now they are all connected, so it all gets together called a sound system. Connection means it is a way to unite them, to join them in the right way, and so the plural becomes singular. We call it, all these things, a sound system, singular. Instead of calling a microphone, a connecting wire, a snake, and an amplifier, and the speaker, instead of all these different components, we say our sound system. So it becomes one. So by connecting, you see that oneness is felt. Like you connect in the family, so now it gets, instead of 5, 6, 10, whatever number, we say we are one family. It becomes unified. This is to be felt, friends, that this is how we develop connections in community. We do all those community things to come closer to the members of the community, depending on what community we belong to. And so there is that observation of birthdays of different people. What is it really? It is to feel connectedness. It is collectively observing, say, the Independence Day, so that as a nation we feel this connectedness, togetherness. So with now God, we have to learn to do these things, and according to our level. It is, you cannot actually do it where you do not belong, your level does not belong. So there you can see that where am I? My flight of imagination tells me that I am one without second, I am the Atman, I am all pervading, there is no other than me. What other worship do I need? One of my friends had asked me, why do we need all this worship? Why should we offer the food and this? What God does he like these fruits and all such things? God is all for pervading. That's God is myself. God is in that fruit. What is then that you are doing here? I said, good question, but look, do you know this? Or do you know that you are this particular person, this body? What you read in the book is one thing, that you are all pervading and so forth. What is your knowledge? What is your actual awareness? It is this form, this body. Otherwise, why do you need to go and hug your wife? It is not the body, after all, she is not the body. Why do you need to go travel thousands of miles to go and meet your son? If he is not the body, he is also self, you are also self, you are all pervading. Why do you need to do that? Because it is easy to prattle with lips. You can say whatever you want. That is not the awareness. We are so much established in that awareness that I am this body. That is the lowest level that we are. Worship is the way to feel united with God that we see. But the level of worship depends on worshipper's level. And this is a bitter pill to swallow, friends. But sometimes the truth is, or more often than not, the truth is bitter. We are at the lowest level, that is physical level, most of the time. We have some connections with, sometimes we have some other mentally, that vibrant things arise. But still we are mostly on the physical level. So when the body goes to New York, I say, I go to New York. What has gone to New York? The body has gone to New York, not you. You are not the body. But you don't feel it. When you say that, I will have to get a surgery done. Now the surgery is not on you, the surgery is on body, but you don't feel that I. Because that identification with body is so strong that first we have to start from there. There is no scope for pretense there, because you will not be able to do it. It is you have to start where you are. And so therefore it is important to take up this worship at the physical level and then climb up without forgetting, that I have to go up. I have to go up. That is why it is shown as this ladder. It is a ladder or a staircase is where you keep on climbing. It is not to live there on a step all the time. That is not what the staircase or ladder is meant for. Climb further. Next step, go to the next step. It is, so you begin there, but you do not remain there. It is like it is said that God accepts us as we are. God accepts us as we are, but does not want us to remain as we are. There will be the evolutionary process, and thus it helps us to develop our lives in the direction of the goal. This is how the psychology in worship, it is like this. We use this term, science of worship. Now, what is the meaning of this word science? Means it is impersonal truth. It doesn't depend on who. It is anybody can practice it. It is not invented, or it is not a personal whim. It is a verifiable something. That is the meaning of science. It is verifiable, also it is falsifiable. Both are there. It is therefore a science. It is universal. That it is, you can practice it whether you are in India or whether you are in United States or somewhere in Australia. Even if you start living on Mars, still it doesn't change. It is universal. So this is why it is called science. I will quote a few lines from this beautiful chapter in this very illustrative, nice book, The Meaning and Significance of Worship. So, this book, there is in the appendix, there is an essay here, The Science of Worship. There are, in the other parts, the earlier parts, there is the procedure of worship, how to pronounce different mantras, what is the significance of particular actions, and all that is given. But this is the essay as an appendix to this book, that it is, and let me quote from here, the first paragraph here. The term science is used only to emphasize that worship or puja is a spiritual discipline which follows a highly scientific procedure. If we make a rational study of the theory on which it is based, we will observe that it is logical at every stage, with a well-planned sequence of its various steps. Let me make a comment here that long ago, when Swami was telling me about worship, and he said, worship has tremendous protocol. Even such strict protocol is not even in the United Nations conferences or meetings. A very strict protocol. Things have to, one has to follow another in a particular sequence. You cannot change that just whimsically. You have to follow that sequence. So it is a spiritual aspirant can attain his cherished objective in this life and supreme spiritual fulfillment through worship duly performed according to the prescribed scriptural injunctions. Then there is another quote within this book that I will be quoting. In this book it is quoted from Swami Sardananda's book of Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. He describes the ideas of worship there, that think of your existence in a non-dual state with Brahman. This is one of the important steps in worship. Now begin it with this thought that actually I am non-dual with Brahman. And then you are to think that you became separate from him and assumed the nature of this little being, embodied being, Jiva, again, and that the light of Brahman becomes condensed, so to say, and manifests itself in the form of deity to be worshipped. The separation. God alone is true, you are that. But now the fact is that you are feeling yourself to be a little being, different from this being, different from that being. We see all are so different. I am good, those others are bad. Or maybe a little bit, who knows. But we are all different, it appears. So, this each is now a little being. And you think of yourself as one of those sparks, and then the collectivity of it is now condensed. Collectivity of you and the remaining is condensed as that deity to be worshipped. And this is a mental step that one has to take. And then it is and then feel that deity in you. And then you worship that deity as if coming from you. That I told in the beginning, that it is you, your true nature. Nobody else is worshipped, but your true self is now felt inside, and it is therefore first worshipped inside. I'll come to that. It is the initially this is done, and then there are the purificatory steps. It is said that to worship the perfectly pure divine, you also have to feel pure. And how one attains to the purity? It is, you may say, I will wash myself, I will put on clean clothes, and so forth. Okay, and that is good. That may be necessary. But does it purify you actually? Not enough purification comes by that. So there is a mantra. In the beginning of the puja, those who have seen puja being done, they would hear that mantra every day. That, although I don't tell the meaning at that time, it says, Tad Vishnoho paramam padam sada pashyanti surayah diviva chakshuratatam Om pavitra pavitro va sarvavastham gatopi va yasmaret pundari kaksham sabhayyabhyantarah shuchi. That being becomes purified internally and externally by Yabhyantara. How? That knowing that the all-pervading eye of the God that pervades everything is watching you. God is watching everything. And then, when you know that somebody is watching you, then you start behaving. It is, if nobody is watching, who knows? Whatever I can do, there is nobody who is watching me. But God is watching. All-powerful God is watching you. Everything that you do, nothing escapes the keen sight of God. Human sight, you can, escape. You can drive very fast and may hope that the police will not be around to catch you. It is that one day somebody was I was on the passenger seat at that time, driving fast. And then I showed, hey, there is the police there. But he continued, said that, well, that police, is giving ticket already to somebody. So doesn't have time to now follow us. Come on. Because human eyes are limited, you can watch only one thing at a time. There is that story in the school, primary school. There were some program and many goodies were kept there for children to take. There were cookies, there were apples, oranges and whatnot. So to keep the children, little children, we had once, children here for some this program here. And then our Joan had kept some snack for them. Lot of cookies Oreo cookies were there. And then the children I thought they will take one and go. And no, they were taking like this, Good, we had plenty of supply, so it didn't fall short like this. So to avoid that, the teacher had written there, at where the apples were kept, take just one, God is watching. And then a bit mischievous child, a clever child wrote where there were cookies, take as many as you want, God busy watching apples, you see. But no, God can watch every single thing. Even what you think, that also gets watched by God. God's eye is everywhere. Remember that. We used to have one gentleman, he used to cut the fruits for worship. And then he has the habit of, putting, while cutting something, put it in mouth. I said, hey, you can't do that. So he said, okay, I will not do it. Then what happened was, he described, it is so difficult to restrain myself. Sometimes the thought comes that there is nobody watching me. Who knows if I put a piece of apple in my mouth? But then I told myself that not that nobody is watching, you are watching. So somebody is watching you. It is God who watches through everybody's eyes plus more. So therefore know that, and then you feel purified. Immediately you remember what you need to do and so forth. So there are other purificatory rites, like you pray to all the beings around to run away, those beings who can create the obstacles in performance of the worship. They are also part of the universe. They are also the offsprings of God, if you think like that. But they are not to remain here and create mischief while the worship is going on. So you chant that, please don't interfere. In some rituals, in a bigger puja, what they do is they give a separate this offering for all those beings. Okay, you will be given your share too. So first that is given. Before the actual puja is begun, that they are given their share. Oh, okay, now take this and be happy. So it is, they then what is called achamanam, that you remember Vishnu. So you 3 times you may take a sip, that yes, okay, 3 times for describes or signifies the 3 levels, that we are physical level, then the mental level, then the spiritual level. At all 3 levels, the purification has to be done. So this is the purification part of it. Then you invoke the deity in the heart with a meditation. Meditate on the deity to be worshipped, so that you feel it. There are the mantras which are used for that process. Those mantras are by those who actually have realized the truth of it. So they feel that power comes to you through those mantras, and thus you invoke that in your heart, that deity. And then first worship that inside you through the mind. That is called the Manas Puja, worship in mind. So it is offer all the things to God in the mind. It is a hospitality ritual, like some very important guest has visited you. Now you have to serve that guest by whatever things are there to be given to that guest. You prepared many dishes that the guest would like. And thus, now different guests will have different likings. So the different deities, they also have their likes and dislikes. As the all-pervading divine, they are same. But then Kali, Mother Kali will have one liking, Mother Durga will have another liking, Vishnu will have some other liking. So therefore, you have to arrange the worship according to what you like, because people's likings, likes, dislikes, they differ. So the different forms of deity also has that. Like once at our UMass Dartmouth, it was told some provost or somebody had come. I don't remember exactly. And somebody else was introducing him. He is very helpful to students. You can go to him with any problem that you want. He will be very cooperative, very loving and considerate. I can guarantee you that. But I must put a word of warning here. Do not go there putting on a Yankee shirt because he is a die-hard Red Sox fan. And so you run the risk of getting murdered if you go like that. So it is, the likings are there, you see. Every person has some likings, likes and dislikes. So it is like that the gods also, like in the worship of Ganesha, you offer some grass called Durga. That grass is to be offered for Ganesha. But for Vishnu, Tulsi leaves are offered. That is not offered to Ganesha. For Shiva, you offer some other leaves called Bilva leaves. They are offered for the worship of Shiva and so forth. So there is a variety in that. But then in the mind you do the worship first. And in the mind what flowers you offer there, you know, that it is said that it is Yeah, I am offering you the flower of my heart as a seat to sit on. So, Rit Padmasanam Dadyat and all that. Offer the seat of a beautiful flower. What flower can be more beautiful than my heart? Very lovingly, I am offering you that seat. And then you offer water to bathe. What a water? That it is falling, as it were, from the highest chakra in the Kundalini. It is imagined that from there the stream of nectar is constantly falling. So that I am offering to you for taking your wash, bathing, and so forth. Then I am offering you all this, the nectar as the food offering, and then I am offering you flowers. The list of the 15 flowers is very interesting. It is what flowers are to be offered, that it is lack of this niscience, amayam, that I am offering to you. A lack of ignorance, lack of pride, detachment, not bragging, absence of delusion, absence of arrogance, lack of hate, unagitated composure, lack of envy, absence of greed. Apart from these are these more flowers, the non-violence and the flowers of sense control, compassion, forbearance and knowledge. These 15 flowers of divine virtues should be used for worship of the Devi. So it is after doing worship inside the mind, then you feel that the deity is coming out to accept your worship outside. Because as I mentioned, the external worship is physical. Since we are at the physical level, we need to objectify things. So that which was seen as inside, now we have to bring it outside. Just as we cannot just imagine a lot of delicacies. Oh yes, I am eating hamburger in my mind. That doesn't fill you, you have to have it physically there. Got it, Sam? Yeah, you have to eat it physically. So the worship also therefore needs to be offered physically too. That, yes, think now that very thing is taking shape outside, and thus we can offer worship there. So this is the picture, those who attend worship here might have seen the Swami putting that meditation on the head. So to feel that the presence inside and offer all the ingredients inside. And then you feel that it is now coming through you from the mind outside, and then put that flower here, as in that pot you can see there. On that pot you offer, and then worship that deity there. So this is how the worship goes on. Thousands and thousands of people many times attend such big worships. Big worships have lot of ingredients. Like I'll just show you for half a minute. This Durga Puja at Belur Math, you see so many people there. It is
Dipa Vigna Nivaran. Om Hring Sring Chamundaya Namaha. Hot pot pot. Hot pot pot pot.
So this worship, with so many special chants, goes on for many days and many hours. One worship it goes on like this is the puja of Divine Mother Durga. So it is done for 4 days, and actually preparatory puja is done for one more day. So and each of them lasts for a long time with so many ingredients. And this time, because of pandemic, the number was less. Otherwise, hundreds of thousands of people, I am not at all exaggerating. In United States they feel it is exaggeration. No, friends, hundreds of thousands of people assemble for that worship. So and it is a very joyous occasion. You get the feel of it, you feel the sense of it, and then it remains with you. Even if you don't are not paying attention, all that remains with you. There are so many things, friends, but the clock is telling me, although it is showing 5:05, it is actually 6:05. So I should stop here. We shall think of these ideas, and in 30 seconds you can ask if any question is there in your mind about it. Anybody having any question? Yes, Sarada?
So we know from the latest scientific studies on the matter that trees and forests are able to communicate over vast distances using neural networks.
Yeah.
Would that be a similar experience for Jivamuktas, people who have become enlightened and can now experience the whole world as part of their existence? Would they communicate in a similar way to that neural networking?
That is true. True. There is a universal network, WWW. Everybody knows what is WWW? Tell me, what is WWW? World Wide Web. Exactly. World Wide Web. So, if you are connected to it, you can communicate to everyone. So, it is the message, whether you know or not, what you are thinking gets communicated. Not only just the trees. You may not really want to communicate, but still it gets communicated. So, it is, and the sages, important thing about the sages is that since they have a great message to communicate, it is certainly done by them even without actually physically connecting. Swami Vivekananda writes, actually it's a lecture, that the power of thought is immense. He says if a sage just sits in a cave and thinks of the great thoughts, meditates on a great thought, and dies there, that thought will break the cave and will get spread all around. You are right there, yeah. Peter has a question.
So in your talk, you graded various levels of spiritual practice, but can we understand that even at sort of the lowest level of spiritual practice, the highest can be attained by that practice alone?
Yes, if you are performing a practice that is suitable for you, then you will rise on the ladder and thus you will attain the highest. The important thing is moving ahead. If you climb on the first step of the ladder, now the second step of the ladder is now in your reach. If you try to go straight to the second step, it may not be possible. You are likely to fall down. So therefore, start from the beginning, and surely moving forward, one will realize the highest. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Any other question? Do you have question on the web? Oh, here Abhijit has some question.
Thanks. So there are like hundreds of thousands of people watching the worship.
Yeah.
I mean, we see the signs how the worshipper and worshipped, worshipper is getting the benefit. What about the hundreds of thousands of people? What's the benefit? They should do the worship even in a simplified form. That may help them. But just participating, what's the point?
It is not judge. It is participating means they are also doing the worship. In this collective worship, there is the individual worship and the collective worship. In collective worship, the worshipper is doing the worship on behalf of all of them. And all of them, therefore, if they attune to it, they will get the benefit. Sure, that is how it happens. There is this. There are different ways in which a person does the worship. When it is done just for one's own spiritual benefit, it is called one thing. The worshipper has one name there in Sanskrit. Then when you are doing the worship at somebody's some place, but you are not really doing it for yourself, your spiritual benefit. Somebody is paying you to do the worship. So it is, but those who have paid and also those who participate, they get it. The priests who worship, they know that they will get some payment for doing the worship. So they may or may not get benefit depending on where their mind is. But those who are attentively feeling it, using it, they will get the benefit. So there are various ways in which this worship gets done. Those who attend, hundreds of thousands of people will get some benefit out of it. Yeah. Any question on the web?
There are no web questions.
Okay. So we shall conclude. I'll tell about the upcoming programs. This coming Tuesday, there is a special lecture by Swami Shantatmananda, the head of the Ramakrishna mission in New Delhi. Vedanta societies are branches of the Ramakrishna order. So he is coming. He had come previously also about long ago, 10 years ago. So he is coming this Tuesday, and therefore on Tuesday, instead of that Swami Yogatmananda's lecture, we will have the lecture of Swami Shantatmananda. He will be speaking on Sri Ramakrishna, the teacher, at 7:30 p.m., 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Other programs during the week, like Friday lecture on Friday class, let us say, on Srimad Bhagavatam, stories from Srimad Bhagavatam at 7:30 p.m. will go on as usual. Morning and evening meditations will go on as usual. You can see the notice there. And then Sunday, come Sunday, and we have a talk by Swami Yogatmananda on becoming a monk. So, I think, that's it. So, there is a retreat also coming up on December 11. You have to register for it if you want to attend. And so now let me conclude with the closing prayer. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Now there will be Arati. Then I will see you. Also there are some butternut squash. If you like, they all are from our garden here. We got a. So if you like, you can take that butternut squash for use at your home. Thank you.
Breaker of all worldly bondage at the Lord thy own, we adore you too. Stainless lotus, assuming human form. Stainless lotus, assuming human form. Transcend Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. You are the basis of growth. O Lord, yes, you are the basis of growth. Great light of all lights, blazing in the hearts. Great light of all lights, blazing in the hearts. Darkness is destroyed by your light. Oh Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yes, you are the basis of growth. O Lord, yes, you are the basis of growth. Great light of all lights, blazing in the hearts. Great light of all lights, blazing in the hearts. Darkness is destroyed by your light. Oh Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. These are all the sounds of Vedanta. These are all the sounds of Vedanta. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Jaya Jaya for your worship divine. Hare Hare for your worship divine. Shiva Shiva for your worship divine. Breaker of all our worldly bondage and the Lord by all, we adore you too. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai. Auspicious and blessed, graciousness sublime, all noble ends you give to us, granting us refuge, all-seeing body. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Creation, preservation, dissolution are your powers, eternal one. victory, O Mother Divine. Our love to you, Blessed Mother Divine. Our love to you, Blessed Mother Divine. Our love to you, Blessed Mother Divine. Our love to you. Jai Shri Ram Krishna Dev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Sarda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Swami Vivekananda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Buddha Dev Ki Jai. Jai